Everybody you meet, Axel, has something to teach you, if only you would listen.
I was originally introduced to you through kind of your Inspiring Leadership podcast, but you have done some incredible work with executives around the globe as a mentor for leadership. You spent 2 decades in the British Army and 25 years in really the boardroom at executive level companies. And one of the things that really sparked me to reach out to you was you're kind of the trustee on a foundation called Inspiring Leadership that empowers disadvantaged youth and disadvantaged women to really realize their full potential and achieve financial independence. And that really touched me as well. So I think I look at your background and you're like the epitome of what I would want Axel to learn from and to get advice from. So one of the questions I like to start with from Axel's perspective, if you could go back to your 13-year-old self, would there be any advice that you would give yourself if you were to do that?
Yeah. Do you want me to say that now?
Yeah.
So, Axel, it's great to be with you. And if I got into my DeLorean car and went back to the future and met young Jonathan Bowman-Perks, aged 13, what was I like? I mean, firstly, I was underconfident. I didn't know at the time I was dyslexic, and I had a thing called dyscalculia, which is a real problem with numbers. I jumbled up in my head. And my teacher unkindly had told me age 9 that I was thick, and I was going to be a garbage man, a dustman, as we call them in England. I was going to be collecting bins because that was all I was good for. I mean, can you imagine a teacher saying that to you today? And luckily, my mother said to me, no, don't worry, Jonathan, you're going to be good with people. You may not be good at spelling and you may not be good at maths, but you'll be good with people. And just as you've got your father giving you wise advice from Kevin, that was very helpful to me. So on the one hand, you almost like have a devil on the one shoulder and a little angel on the other. And that little devil is going, you're useless. You're not going to be good enough. You can't spell. You're thick. And probably until I was 30, when people would say, oh, you're really clever, Jonathan, I go, no, I'm just thick. Because it was a label that the teacher had given me. And teachers who are listening ought to be very careful about the labels they use, and even parents. But the young 13-year-old me was, deeply underconfident. I wasn't particularly, I think in America you call them jocks. I wasn't one of these strapping, muscle-bound U.S. Marine type character who was in every sports team and all the girls loved him. I was underconfident, was probably too intense with the girls, and was at a boys' boarding school because my father had been killed when I was just 2.5. So mother had brought 3 boys up on her own. She was only 33 when her husband was killed. He was a fast jet pilot and he died saving the lives of 2 other people, which is a conversation for another time. But the 13-year-old self, I would say to myself, John, don't be so intense. I think much of my earlier life, even probably now, I have been far too intense to prove things. We have 3 that we call these psychological drivers, Axel. It's like work hard, be strong, please others. I think it's be on time or something like that. Hurry up, driver. Yeah, these are called drivers, and they and I have all 4. Like they're in there. Like, oh, I got to do this. So a lot of the time, I was looking for approval of the man I'd never known, my father, who was a hero, and he was a naval, like Top Gun pilot. He died like Goose died in the film Top Gun. The ejector seat sent him into the real tailpiece and killed him. And the aircraft was faulty, which is why he was having to bail out. A fire had been caused by a blade from the turbine, which had shot off and cut through the aircraft. And he said to the co-pilot, you get out, I'll bring it in. The other guy lived. My father died. And the guy whose aircraft it was that he was test flying, I met him 20 years later, and we had this amazing conversation. But back to the 13-year-old self, the advice I'd be is don't be too intense. And it's about connections, about real connections. It's not about what's in it for me. It's about how can you connect with someone else And what can you learn from them? Everybody you meet, Axel, has something to teach you. If only you would listen. What's your thoughts on that, Axel? On my thoughts?
I feel like that's really like good because I've always just like I've never really thought about what they were saying. Well, I have, but you just put it into like a whole different perspective for me.
Good, good. Yeah, and that was. I wish someone had said that to me earlier on. That even the people that you don't particularly like, or they really rub you up the wrong way, they've got something to teach you. Like this is not the way to be with other girls or with adults. Or I really like the way this person is so modest. I talk about the three hums. A friend of mine, Roger Steer, taught me: humility, humanity, and humor. And it's really important that you don't tell everybody how wonderful you are, because I found the more I try and tell people how great I am, the less they believe me. Yeah. It's like, why does this guy have to reassure me that they're fantastic? And it's like when someone says to you, Axel, to be completely honest with you, blah, 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 blah. And you go, does that mean you're not being honest the rest of the time? So why do you have to tell me to be honest? Or why do you have to tell me how good you are? And there's the story of the two midshipmen, that's junior naval officers in the Dutch Navy. It's called the Dutch admirals. So, Axel, the story of the Dutch admirals were two young Navy officers in the Dutch Navy. And rather than tell everybody how wonderful they were very modest. And so let's call them Axel and Jonathan, all right? These two naval officers. And when someone said to Axel, "Hey, Axel, you're a really good officer. That was a great bit of leading of your men there, or you were very, very inspirational when you're with them." And Axel would say, "Well, thank you. However, I must give the credit to Jonathan because I learned a lot from Jonathan in the way he leads, and I was just mirroring what I saw him do." And they go, "Okay, that's great." And then when they say to Jonathan, "Hey, Jonathan, you really loved the way you led that flotilla, or you carried out your duties," and you, "Well, thank you. But actually, the person I admire is Axel. And I think he has these qualities which I want to be like." And they were genuine. They weren't making it up. They did admire each other, and they were good friends. But the point was they kept getting promoted. And it wasn't about telling everybody how great they were. They were talking about the qualities of other people, and particularly each other. And they got to become the two top admirals in the Dutch Navy. So if you ever think about how to be, just think about not needing to tell everybody how wonderful you are, because they won't believe you anyway. But you can talk about what you learned from your dad, or making a man from the different people you had as your guests. What do you think?
I think like talking highly of other people is great, and I feel like that's like a really good aspect you should have in your life.
Yeah, yeah, and you don't need to overdo it. We can over-index on certain things. I tend to be very intense. So if I'm going to do something, like, I'm 63, but if I'm going to train in the gym like I did this morning, I had a 7-minute workout. Then I went for a run for 20 minutes with the dogs, wearing my Whoop medical grade strap, which I'm not getting paid to talk about. It is good. And then I did an hour in the gym doing weights on chest and arms and triceps. I will do these things fully on. You can't be a little bit pregnant. You're either all in or you're not. You got to, if you're going to go for it, but just don't be too intense. And that's my tip, I think, to my 13-year-old self.
That is so good.
That is. So, who would you say would be your greatest mentor, and what did they teach you?
Yeah, I've been very lucky, and I think this is part of the story of why I wrote the recent book, The CEO's Compass: How to Navigate Teams Through Turbulent Times, which has just come out, as we were discussing, and people can pre-order it from my website, jonathanperks.com. But because my father was killed when I was 2.5, and his Navy cap, for those who can watch this YouTube video, is at the back of the room, and his sword is hanging up there, his Navy sword. And there's a picture of him where he was climbing into an airplane in a place called Pensacola in Texas on the Gulf Coast, where he trained with the U.S. Navy, Air Force, U.S. Navy pilots. And because I didn't have a father figure like you did, I was constantly looking for mentors all my life. Even now, I still am. Like I've got a marvelous guy called Admiral Bill McRaven. You ever come across him? He did a video called First Make Your Bed. It's been watched by 10 million people. And if you want a mentor, listen to Admiral Bill McRaven. I had him as a guest on my podcast. You can have a listen to him. Navy SEAL. He and his team captured and killed Osama bin Laden. He was a prison guard to Saddam Hussein. His Navy SEALs caught him. And Captain Phillips, who was out floating in the ocean, having been captured by Somali pirates, it was Bill McRaven's Navy SEALs who shot the pirate and rescued him. So he's one hell of a guy. And he has been a mentor to me. I've mentioned him. He gave me a very kind endorsement for the book, and he's in the book. So I've always been looking for mentors. I suppose it's the sort of absent father figure. And I think particularly of one when I was in Fort Leavenworth in Kansas City, Kansas, in America. I came over from the British Army to do an exercise with the American Army. And I was the guy in charge of a bunch of 20 of the top students from the UK. And this was quite hard because they were all very bright and very capable. And I was trying to herd cats. Like, you know, they all wanted to show how good they were. And they all were been in the SAS and the Special Boat Squadron, which is like the Navy SEALs. And they all went on to become generals, every one of them. So leading this group was really hard. And I was given a mentor who was an American general. He'd been in the Vietnam War. And he goes, Jonathan, you haven't got time to make all the mistakes that I made. Let me tell you where these anti-personnel mines are buried. And don't go and step on those ones. He said, but the little bastards have been out overnight and they put some more mines out there. I don't know where those ones are. He said, you may step on those. I don't know about those ones, but I do know about these ones. And you haven't got time to make all the mistakes I've made. So here's some advice. And what great mentoring advice. You know, like it was about listen to all the guys. They've all got advice. They've all got experience. But then you've ultimately got to make a decision. Like I've just been chatting with my friend, General Himalaya Thapa, the Nepalese army. And my wife and I were on a video call with him and his wife. And we're trying to make a decision whether we go to Nepal or not, because Nepal's just been going through some terrible burning down of the Hilton Hotel and the Parliament building, and 100 people have been killed and thousands have been injured. Do we go on the trek in 3 weeks' time, or do we not? And you can ask all sorts of people. Everybody will give you their view, but ultimately, you have to make a decision. Now, not making a decision is a decision. So sometimes you've just got to be clear on, get as much information as you can, and then you make a decision. And a lot of the time, you often want somebody else to take it away from you. Like, oh, can someone else think for me? No, think for yourself. What do you think? So the power of thinking for yourself and the fact that your dad is interested in your opinions, you're learning early. What do you think, Axel?
I think that when you think for yourself and you don't let other people think, it really sets the mindset of like, oh, dang, like I got to do this myself. And it really like creates a better pathway for like further on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you own it. Right. Mm-hmm. And this is what Admiral Bill McRaven says, like, begin the day by making your bed. Because at least if you come back after the end of a really bad day, you come home to a bed that is made, that you made. And that was the first task of the day, is make your bed. Begin by making your bed. Get on and do the first task of the day, which is just like make your bed. Even if it's a duvet, just straighten it up, make it look smart, make your room look good. So
that's good advice. It's really good.
Yeah.
Jonathan, one of the things I always think about when I hear someone with your background and others that have been on your show, when they're introduced, it sounds like they've accomplished these incredible things, but my mind has always went to, what did they have to go through to be introduced like that? And I don't think a lot of people focus on that. Sometimes they look at the bright side of things and they're like, look what this person has done. But the reason I want to ask you this is you have talked to so many executives. Are there common traits that a lot of leaders struggle with to get to the goals that they want to achieve? And if so, how can we prepare for those?
Yeah, I think it's a really good one. Overcoming struggles to get to where you are. It can be quite easy, Axel, to think, oh, these guys all seem to have their shit together. They really seem to just be. They came out of their mother's womb and they were perfect from the moment they arrived. No, they weren't. And if you ever think you're meeting people who come from a completely functional family rather than a dysfunctional family, let me disabuse you of that. That's not true at all. All those people you think they've got their act together, they've been through a lot of drama, particularly the Navy SEALs, the SBS, the SAS guys. I've interviewed a lot of them. I did airborne training myself to get my parachute wings and my maroon beret. And I was surrounded by a lot of people who'd been through hell and back. One of the guys, his podcast is coming out shortly. He's just climbed Everest with some other special forces guys, but his mother was a crack addict. She was on, really, really bad drugs. And he had to go into a children's home where he was, and others were abused. But yet he ended up as a successful entrepreneur in the special forces and climbing Everest in a record attempt in 6.5 days, leaving the UK, climbing Everest and getting back to the UK. Just phenomenal. So we often say in psychological terms, people move towards something that they aspire to or away from something they don't want to be. So I think, and I had this with Colonel Simon Hutchinson, we were talking about our experiences. He goes, John, I don't think I should be on the Inspiring Leadership podcast. I wasn't a really very good leader to begin with. And I go, do you know what, Simon? Let me let you into a secret. I was a really poor leader to start with. I made some really bad decisions, but it's from the bad decisions that the good leaders learn. And as one CEO said to me once, Jonathan, I learned so much from my mistakes. I think I'm going to go and make a few more. What do you think, Axel?
Well, I think that making mistakes is just, I feel like it's better than having success, because when you make mistakes, you can like look back on those and they can really like help you in your future if you like you just look back. And I feel like that's important to look back more than you think.
Yeah, and staying with that one, I mean, clearly we want to have successes and win at things and that kind of stuff. But as you say, we quite quickly move on when we have a success and don't reflect on it. In the military, we used to talk about it as an after-action review. Something's happened, good or bad, do a review of it. And the initials are GDD. What was good? What was difficult? What should you do differently? Good, difficult, differently. And you can, in a team, talk about it, or you could talk about it with your dad. The point is, everything is a teachable moment. This is a whole philosophy from the University of Michigan, where I worked with one of the very bright professors there. And the Navy SEALs use that attitude as well. They go, guy gets shot, kicking down the door into rooting out some baddies. And they go, okay, now what? What have we learned? What are we going to do? Learning, action, learning, action. So always ask yourself, if it's gone well or it's gone badly, what have I learned? Now what am I going to do? Yeah, don't just be paralyzed. Go, now what? And it's the fact that you take action, you do something with it. It might not be the perfect thing, but it's moving you in some direction. But you need to remember the wisdom of General Rommel, the German successful panzer commander, who in the end got beaten by Montgomery in the Western Desert, the British commander, and also the Americans who were coming from the West in Operation Torch in the Second World War, 1942 seems to ring a bell for me. That he said there are 4 types of leaders. There are lazy and stupid leaders. There are hardworking and stupid leaders. There are bright and lazy leaders, and there are bright and hardworking leaders. Take the stupid and hardworking leaders and shoot them. They will take you miles in the wrong direction, and they'll work very hard at it, but they're stupid. and they're leading you in the wrong direction. Now, clearly you can't shoot most leaders, but let's go back to that. He said, take the bright and lazy ones. Now promote them to the highest ranks because they'll get the job done, and then they want to go and spend some time with their friends and their family. But they'll get the job done quickly. So you can't do anything about brightness, Axel, but what you can do, and I'm proof of this, is hard work. And I think if there was a greatest lesson I would ever give you, it's about hard work and grit. And I can tell you a story about that. But what do you think about hard work and grit?
I feel like you need hard work and grit to get through, one, tough times, and two, a lot of problems. And if you want to have success, in order to have success, to have that good feeling, you have to have hard work in order to get to success.
Yeah. And there's something really important about the difference between hard work and just being told by everybody, you're really talented. Mm-hmm. Because there's some work around the area of growth mindset by Dr. Carol Dweck, D-W-E-C-K. And she said the problem with people who are told at your age that they're really talented is they think it's like a God-given right to be talented. And therefore, you don't need to work hard because you're talented. So if something comes in which is a real stretch and beyond your knowledge, the really talented one don't want to have a go at it because that might show them up and be shown that they're not as God-givenly gifted as they are. But the guy or the girl who's prepared to work hard and achieve success through hard work and grit and determination, they'll keep going step by step. Next 10 minutes, just keep plodding on for the next 10 minutes and the next 10 minutes. And so that would be my encouragement to you. And the other thought, which is an old Buddhist saying, success is getting what you want. Happiness is wanting what you've been given or what you've already got. Go for happiness every time. Yeah, yeah. Well, I've got so many to choose from. It's really quite hard to choose. But I would think it's probably while I was doing airborne training, and the mistake was not reading the instructor, who was a psychopathic bully, and thinking that I could just be kind and just get away with that. But you have to make allowance for there are some bad dudes out in the world, and they don't have your values. They say treat other people as you'd like to be treated, but actually treat other people as they'd like to be treated. Is a slight variation on that. And so we were on a run, a 10-mile march, and the officers like myself who were trying to pass the selection for airborne forces, they would be expected to encourage the men who'd be dropping back. So they had to be as fit as the men and fitter so they could go back and help someone, encourage them forward to the group, run with the group again, go back and get someone else. So you'd end up doing a lot more distance than the other people. And this instructor really hated me. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was my posh voice or whatever it was, but he just wanted me to fail. Ring the bell, give up, get on the wagon, as he said, which means you get taken back to camp. You failed. And he saw an opportunity. And this guy, Jenkins, I'll never forget him, Gunner Jenkins, dropping back from the group, about 300 meters behind the main squad who were running along with the packs and the rifles, 55 pounds of kit and helmets and that kind of stuff. And the mud was, I don't know, ankle deep, sometimes knee deep, big squelchy, muddy puddles which drag and suck on your legs. And so I went back without any prompting. I went back to get Jenkins, and this instructor came back with me. And he looked at me, encouraging this guy, and he said, take his pack. And I go, but staff, you have to call them all staff, even though they're corporal. It's just a respectful term. I've already got my own pack. Don't argue with me. Give me 20 press-ups. So in the mud, with my pack on, I had to do 20 press-ups while Jenkins is running on. and is catch up with Jenkins. So I then have to run and catch up with him. And he goes, now, don't argue with me, carry his pack. I'm sort of thinking, how'd you do that? Like, okay. So I said, Jenkins, just take your pack off. And I put my arms out and he fed me the pack on the front of me. So I got a pack on the back and a pack on the front. And the corporal said to Jenkins, go on, catch up with the group. So this guy is like a spring rabbit. He's happy. He's got no backpack. He's running off and catches up with the group. And I'm there like some turtle with two turtles stuck together, waddling along in the mud, squelching along. I cannot run at this stage. I am weighed down. I'm more muscular now, but I was a bit of a skinny guy there. And he kept saying to me, you're a loser. Give up. And he goes, oh, I see Sir's got a zit on his face. I had this big boil growing on my face. I was, young 20-year-old with lots of acne. And I go, yes, I'm giving birth. He said, what are you giving birth to? To a corporal. What? Are you insulting me? Give me 20 press-ups. I'm like, I can't give 20 press-ups. So I'd take the pack off, do 20 press-ups, put the pack back on and carry running. And he didn't like the fact that I was arguing. Anyway, eventually, because it's this idea of just take a few steps and then a few more. I couldn't think of the fact there was still 5 miles to go. I just thought in like little chunks of time and I'll just keep going for this bit. And he got bored. He'd been playing like a sort of kitten with a mouse. He'd been playing with me and abusing me for a while. He goes, oh, sorry, Jenkins, come back, take your pack, go and join the squad. And he left me alone for a bit because I didn't crumble. So I think my lesson is you will meet some really evil people who want to tease and abuse you. They're probably psychopaths or narcissists. You get a few of those. You're seeing them in the public arena around the world and some politicians and things. And it's all about them. You can't change them, is my advice, Axel. You either emigrate to avoid them or just move away from them, but just don't be with those kind of people. Even if you're in a school with people like that, you're probably better moving schools because you're not going to change those kids and their behavior. The only thing you can change is your thoughts and your behavior. And I decided that this guy wasn't going to break me. And that has stayed with me ever since. Control the controllables. What you can control, Axel, is your thoughts and your actions. You can't control your dad's, you can't control your friends at school, and you can't control mine. What's your thoughts on that?
Whoa. Dang, I feel like
you can't control your own, that your thoughts. You have to control it and not let anyone else ruin them, right?
Like you can't let anybody else change your thoughts and you can't change theirs. Only you can change them and only them can change theirs.
And to avoid bad people. Like we've talked about this before. Like you get a feeling in your gut about someone when you're around them and you see their actions that don't kind of align with yours. Like that is good advice on try to avoid those people.
Yeah. You are Axel, you're the sum of the 5 people you spend your most time with. You got a good one in your dad. He's a mentor. He's with you. But also choose your friends wisely. And if they're really not adding love, life, and happiness to your life, don't be with them. I've occasionally in the past, if I look back, chosen a couple of people who are not so good for me. And it took me a long time to realize that they weren't good for me. And now I am just lucky enough to be surrounded by really inspirational people. And I have these guests who become friends like Jeff Nischwitz from Florida. And Jeff and he was one of my early podcast guests. He's come and stayed with me for a week with my family. And I went and did one of his Mankind projects, which when you're older, you could do one of those. We were all in the forest learning about how to be a good man and how to treat women with respect, but how to be comfortable in your own skin. Because a lot of men are not really comfortable in who they are, and they carry a lot of baggage from poor parenting or being bullied at school or whatever it is, or events that have happened. So choose who you spend your time with, because you are the sum of the 5 people you spend your most time with. Choose them wisely. What do you think?
I feel like that's great advice.
It is.
Like I've noticed that I've had some bad friends in the past, but I never really thought of it like that way. And I feel like they definitely changed me for the worse. But now that I feel comfortable around the people I'm with right now, like my dad and my friends at school,
Yeah. Yeah. And you are at a very influential age. The stages in life where, to begin with, your parents seem, the ones who are your mentors, and then you want to break away. It's part of the process, particularly as the making of a man, as your program is called, where you feel that you want to be with your peer group, and your dad's no longer cool to be with, and so it's this group. But choose them wisely, because a lot of people who I met, there's a Royal Marine, British Royal Marine, lovely guy, Scotty Mills, and he's on the podcast. I have a listen to him. But he talked about it was a fine break between, he could have been with the drug gangs. He was in a bad estate in London, but actually he happened to shelter in the doorway of a Royal Navy recruiting office with his ice skates around his neck, and the rain was coming down, and he had a afro hairstyle. He was quite a character in his wide boy clothes. And the sergeant instructor who was doing the recruiting, he said, "Do you want to come in, lad, from the rain?" So he came in. He says, "Can you do any heaves on that bar?" And so he just showed him a few heaves. He goes, "Oh, you should join the Royal Marines." And his life changed from that. But he said, it's an easy one. From who you're with, your life diverges. They talk about the sliding doors moment when you get onto a train or some kind of vehicle where you could have gone through the doors and closed and gone to a destination, or you missed it. And your life changes completely by those sliding doors moments where did you step through or did you not? What do you think?
I feel like there's good doors that are open and some bad doors that are open. So I feel like you really have to think about what door you're going to go through.
Great wisdom. And everything in life is possible if you're prepared to pay the price and live with the consequences. But sometimes the price and the consequences are too high. And think about, what are going to be the ramifications of this decision that I'm making? Do I smoke this joint and start on drugs? Do I do I lie? Whatever it might be. And whoops, just turn that one off. That's the Nepalese attaché giving me a call, so forgive me for that. But choose carefully what you do. Choose carefully what you do.
Mr. Jonathan Bowman-Perks, that was a good spot to end the interview on. We are so grateful for you to join us. Thank you so much. And we will be getting your book, The CEO's Compass, at your website. And Axe, good job. That was a really good interview. And we really appreciate you being here with us.
It's an honor to be on your podcast. Keep up the great work, guys. And
thank you.
Yeah.
Sharing the wisdom. Thank you very much for having me on. Thank you. All right. Bye.
All right. Have a great night.
Thanks for joining us today on Making a Man. If you found value in today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and share it with others. Together, we can keep inspiring and guiding the next generation. Thank you. See you next time.
Oh!